This right here is the Canon 40D. It's one of my first cameras I ever bought in 2010. I'm going to talk to you about what it's like to use and what it would be like to use now in 2022 when I'm making this video. How does it stack up against more modern cameras? What could you use it for? And what features does it have? You could build a pretty cheap system that would be really good. Oh, do you know what? I'm so tempted sometimes just to get a little kit together like that and then do some landscape and portrait shoots with it, just to show you guys that you don't need to have this crazy expensive stuff, that it's always about you and your ideas and your lighting understanding to make good pictures. It bugs me so much because I often want to shoot on the latest cameras because they make your life easier, but I still want to impress on to everyone that photography is photography and it doesn't change. So I often I feel very drawn to the idea to show you that you can do the same work on other gear. It might just be a little bit harder to do, but you can still do the same stuff. Oh, I think you get live view on it as well, you know. I mean, imagine you could do landscapes on that with, I think it does. You could put like a little 10 to 18, a nice, it's quite sharp little lens, very lightweight on the front, stick it on your tripod, and you could be doing like live view, zoom in to check your focus and everything on the back, and it would be, you could probably get that set up for like £200. That's crazy. It's so, for what it is, it's really cheap. That is so tempting. Don't mind the 10 megapixels. Stop caring about all of that. It's not important. That would be really fun to shoot with something like that. Now, mine died on me quite some time ago, so this is not a working camera body anymore. But I just want to show you just a little bit of the layout and the controls and so on, and we can get into what it's actually like to shoot with. It's a 10 megapixel crop sensor. That means any lenses you use, it's going to crop in on them. You can take the focal length and multiply it by 1.6 on Canon cameras. You see, I can show you, don't freak out that I'm showing you the sensor. This camera's dead, so it won't make any difference. That's the size of the sensor inside. The shutter's blocking it at the moment, but the shutter is dead. It has very good color rendition, and it's a nice camera to operate. On the back, you've got the standard Canon layout, so even though this is an old camera, it will be familiar to all Canon users. You've got all your regular buttons, joystick for the focus points, the classic Canon scroll wheel, which was still the nice, heavier duty scroll wheel before they changed over to the more plasticky one, and your other buttons along the bottom here. These are the play and jump and info buttons that were on some of the cameras up the side. Menu button in the top corner up here, and the top plate is also a very typical Canon layout. You even get 3 custom modes on the wheel, if you notice that. The viewfinder with the crop sensor cameras is often a little bit smaller than on full frame, and that's the case with this camera, though it's not a problem, but it does mean that your focus points reach closer to the edges. The color rendition of this camera is the old school Canon color rendition, which is really nice. It's among their better skin tones. General color and tone is very classic Canon. The camera that its rendition is closest to is the 5D Mark I. For cameras of this era, it has a fairly large screen on the back. This was one of the things that I liked about this over the 5D Classic at the time, was having the larger screen on the back. A lot of you will know me from my 5D Classic videos. 40D, to me, is the crop sensor equivalent of the 5D Classic. So it comes with all those things that they give the crop sensor. It just feels faster to operate, but it feels that it's of the same sensor generation and look from the files. You can pick these cameras up extremely cheaply now used. You can get a good condition one for, I think it's like £60 or £70 in the UK, which is probably $80 in America. I mean, I don't know how much they are in America, but it's probably something like that. The lens to pair this camera with, if you want to do portraits, and it's actually a good portrait camera, is a 50mm 1.8. Now, if you're going to be progressing onto other Canon cameras, grab the STM, because one day you might want to do some video, and then the STM video is better for that. Or if you want, just grab the 50 1.8 Mark II. There's not much in it between them. But if you get the 50mm 1.8 STM and stick it on this, you'll end up with an 80mm field of view equivalent, which is a very, very good range for portraits. And when I started, I used that lens to do some portraiture. I wish I still had those pictures to show you, but I just, there was a lot of early work that I did. So I used to shoot like crazy in the first couple of years. I was just shooting constantly, and I would put stuff out and bin it and then just get rid of things and delete things as I went along because I'd get better and just remove stuff. Now with Canon crop sensor cameras, they are built to be a little bit faster and more responsive. Even the shutter button response feels quicker. It shoots at up to 6 frames per second, and you know that when you're shooting, you can just feel it's got that little bit more responsiveness to it. You can do really good work on a camera like a 40D. When I started, I had some money to invest in my camera gear, and I invested it in lighting. And then I used what was left to buy a camera and a lens. So I kind of probably did the reverse to what most people did, was I spent my money, I bought two studio flashes with a larger softbox, which I'm actually using the softbox for it now. But I got heavier duty light stands and some triggers to trigger those lights. And then I spent what was left on a camera body and a lens, although admittedly this was more expensive at that time. With the 40D, you get access to Canon's crop sensor lenses for EF. They're actually called the EFS range, but they make some good lenses. Some to look out for: 17 to 55 2.8. I just did the maths on that. I think it's like a 27 to 88, something like that. It'd be a very flexible, good working range. And for Walkaround, you've got lenses like Canon's 24mm pancake lens for crop sensor cameras, which would stick out from the base about to here. And that would give you something around, I think it's 35mm, 35mm. It'll be a very nice walk-around lens, just a little pancake lens on the front of that, and you could be walking around taking little pictures with this. What a great little setup. In fact, if you wanted the 2' setup, you could take the 24mm pancake and the 50mm, and that would give you a wide and slightly telephoto. That could be quite a nice, small budget setup for a photographer. I remember when I first got this, I stuck my 50 onto the front of it, and I was just blown away with the pictures when I was looking at them afterwards. It was just incredible to see the kind of colour and rendition, because it was that classic Canon look. It's one of those looks that I think that when you don't get it right, it looks quite sort of muted and flat, but when you get it right, it just shines so well. There's something about those early Canon sensors that when you have them in a backlit situation, it doesn't. I'm not talking about flaring or anything like that. I don't care about that. It just renders in such a way that just looks so nice. The ergonomics on it, the grip, is good. It's got a really nice grip to it. I actually prefer it to the 5D Mark I and 5D. Well, maybe it's similar to the 5D II, but it's definitely better than the 5D Mark I. It fits in the hand really nicely. You know, nowadays, like all the mirrorless cameras, your finger hangs off the bottom here. Well, there's enough just to get it on the 40D. It's got enough space on there, which just makes a nice little welcome change when you pick up some of these older cameras and they actually fit into your hand properly, and it's not too close to the lens and the grip's not too shallow. It feels like a really nice camera to use. It's got all the usual ports and things on the side. I think that's... Oh. Okay. Snapped off. It's old, trust me, it's old, because when I bought it, it was already quite well used. For me, this is almost a must for me to repurchase, especially at that price. I think when I look at them, I think they're so cheap, I should just get one. And because it's so cheap, you just don't do it, because you think, oh, they're just so cheap, it's just there, I'll just get one day, and then you never end up actually doing it. If you want to do lightweight travel and landscape photography, the 10 to 18 on this, I assume that works, right? So, I mean, put it in the comments if you think it doesn't. But that would be great. That would give you like a 15 to 28, something like that, which is good range to work with, especially the wide angle. That goes really wide at that point. And I'm pretty sure the Live View works on it, so you can compose even handheld at weird and different angles with it. If you want to spend the money on camera gear and you've got it, then do it. But just don't buy stuff where you buy it and then you baby it because it's an investment and you spent so much of your money on it that you're like so emotionally invested in your camera gear that you get angry online when someone criticizes it, which is daft. And then you get kind of all, oh no, I need to protect it and I don't want to take it out. Get an old camera like this and use it, abuse it, dent it. Look at mine. Look at the state of like where banging it into things, like resting it on walls and stuff, scratching it, and just who cares? It doesn't matter. But if you did that one in your newer car, I don't want to put it there. Like if you want to get a low down shot and stick it in the rocks or something, or take a picture from the floor, or whatever you want to do, you don't have to baby something like this. They're tough bodies. They can take a lot of abuse. They were designed to. The Canon makes some very good, strong cameras, and this is one of them. You can just do whatever you want with it. Get out there and shoot and take pictures and go on a road trip and do something interesting and use a camera like that to do it. And I think you'll have a really good time and you'll come back with some good pictures, and you can upgrade your gear later. But anytime you want to do something rough, that you can use something like this. Be a photographer, not a gear collector that has, oh, look at it on my shelf. Too many photographers with shelves with lenses on them that don't move. Just there every single time. You know what I mean. Get out and shoot.